administrating workspaces within Globalscape's EFT software. In this video, I'm going to take a deep dive into the following topics when it comes to workspace administration. Configuration options for workspaces within the admin interface, changing ownership of a workspace shared folder. This is a relatively new feature. Auditor reports that are available for workspaces, event rule triggers, workspace variables that are available, and then how to modify the default configuration settings for workspaces for all users within that particular site. This portion of the video will discuss how to administrate workspaces inside the admin interface. Once I've logged into the interface, I can select the site that I wish to administrate. So I'm going to select this site here and click on the Web tab in the center window. The top four buttons here are for workspace configuration, right? Folder sharing, the send portal technology, the drop-off portal technology, and the request file portal. I'm going to click on this button here first to talk about the folder sharing experience. Once this pops up, I can enable it here at the site level. And this also means that I can have a folder sharing experience with different sites, completely different and completely independent with different security policies. Now, configuring workspaces, I have two different security thresholds that I can deploy. Two options, right? I can deploy in this particular site. I have the option of allowing invitations to be sent to new EFT users for workspaces. That means internal users, and that means external users. These external users go through a registration process. And once they've registered and validated, they will fall under the guest users template, which I'll show you in a second. This guest users template will have a different security policy compared to your internal users. If you send an invite to an internal user and they have permissions to use this feature, they will get an email notifying them they have access to that particular folder. If you select this option, you have the ability of whitelisting domains or blacklisting domains. This means you can allow invitations only sent to the particular domains listed, and you can also blacklist domains as well. Selecting this option as a configuration, this changes your security threshold completely. This means the workspace's feature set is only available to existing users. Invitations can only be sent to existing users, and ultimately it's just a notification process. They have to have access to EFT before the workspace is even shared. The options listed below, these configuration options listed below, are available to whichever security threshold you choose. Maximum expiration period can change from days, weeks, months, or years, anywhere from 2 days in the future to 68 years in the future. The second part of the account verification process can be email, SMS, or you can try SMS then email, depending on how you want to configure it. Selecting this option here, if you enable it, it's disabled by default, but you can turn this on. So if workspace links have expired after so many days to whatever threshold you choose, you can choose to disable the account, remove the account completely, remove the account and home folder if you need to. So this is disabled as well by default. This would give each registered user or external user their own home folder. So when they log in, they would default to their own home folder if that's enabled. So that's the configuration portion for workspaces. Now, when it comes to the user accounts, right? You would set the permissions at the settings template, right? Settings template level. You can give them access to the secure folder sharing here. You can turn it on there, or you can turn it on at the individual user level as well. Just remember, bear in mind, that's how the licensing works. It's associated with the settings template. So when the external users are registered, they actually fall under the guest users settings template. So you can, at that level, you have a different security policy than your internal network. And you can even offer different additional services, right? So you can even offer SFTP to those guest users. So when they register, they can log in with a browser or an FTP client as needed. The next workspace feature I would like to talk about is the send portal. I would select here to configure it, select the web interface, web tab again, and select send portal. I can turn this on and off at the site level, which means I can have multiple secure file sending features available per site. There are 3 security thresholds that are available. I can set, first one would be the most restrictive, which means I can send files to existing users only. The second level security threshold would be existing users and registered guest accounts. That means I can send an invite out to an external user. They go through the registration process. Once they're validated, they can download these files that have been sent to them, or they can even reply to them depending on how you want to configure it. And then the least restrictive would be existing EFT users, registered guest accounts, and then anonymous users. This means I can send out an email or send out a file to an email address that person receives the message, they can click on the link without registering. It's a direct download from the EFT server. So you can, even at that level, you can still enforce PIN codes if you need to, and you can even give them the ability to reply to the message if you like. These options here, the send portal path, reserve path, you can actually type in the host name /send and to pop up with the to get directly to the portal. This you can change this if you need to, and then this is the DNS entry representing where the site is. There's an Outlook add-in installer that's available to you using there's MSI or executable, and then there's actually deployment scripts that can assist you with deploying this in your network environment. In this case, this is a GS site where the user accounts are manually created, so during the installation process, it'll prompt you for a username and password. If it's an Active Directory site and you deploy the deployment script, it'll change. The password information will show you the built-in Windows login technology that's available in Active Directory. You can auto-attach files. This is enabled by default. If they exceed 10 megabytes, you can change this whatever threshold you want. The maximum expiration period can be days, weeks, months, years as well. You can even retain the files after the link expires for days, weeks, months, or years. The default expiration time, you can set that for, again, immediately, day, week, month, or even the year. So currently, right now, it's set to a day. So if I look at the user interface and I'm actually doing a send file, I go to the options, this is where that default setting is displayed. So its message expiration is defaulting to 1 day, and that, again, is set at the admin interface right here. This is configured to allow users to reply with files of their own. So once you send an invite or a secure file send to them and they register, they download the file, this would give them the ability to reply. You can also send an entire message, not just the attachment, securely. And then you can choose to enforce this, always secure, never secure, or let the sender choose. So when this is configured for sender chooses, this shows up here inside the send message portal. The next admin configuration option would be the out-of-band passcode for anonymous users. So when you send a file to an anonymous user, you can, from an admin point of view, you can enforce an out-of-band passcode, or you can disable that, or you allow the sender to choose. This last option here is for the registration process. So if you're sending a file to somebody and you're enforcing registration, this is the second factor of authentication verification. Just like sharing a folder, you have the option of email delivery, SMS, or SMS then email. The last of the 4 workspace features would be the request file portal. I click on it here. This is actually inheriting a lot of the information from the send portal. So in this case, I can turn it on, turn it off. I could change the reserve path if I want to, and then I can change the default workspace expiration. So again, if I look at the request file portal, I'm logged in. This is what it looks like. I'm selecting do requests. That comes from, if you look at the browser, from once you log into as a user, you have this request file option, and this pops up. It takes you to this. So I can have the options here of enforcing authentication or not. And again, this default message expiration period is set at the admin level. This information is set at the email, the send portal level. Now that all the workspaces features are enabled, you want to give the access to the your user base. And that is determined at the settings template level and even at the individual level. So when it comes to the settings template level, you go to connections, and this is where you would enable it. Allow secure folder sharing and allow secure file sending. So you can enable it at the settings template level. You can also assign it to individual users as well. And this is how EFT distributes its workspace licenses. This concludes the configuration portion of workspaces within the admin interface. There will be links associated with all the things that I've talked about somewhere around this video. The next administration topic pertaining to workspaces would be changing ownership of a workspace shared folder. This is a relatively easy process, and this came out in the A3 series of EFT. Administrators may have a need to change ownership of a workspace folder due to some type of medical event or somebody leaves abruptly from the organization. There's a way to change that. The requirements are it has to be another internal user. It cannot be external users. So I simply go to the VFS tab of the site that I need to change this folder on, and there's a root folder, but there's this workspaces folder, something called workspaces. I simply click on that. In this case, I have a test shared folder already. This is JB Clear as the owner, but I need to change it to somebody else. So I click on ownership on the right, and type in the user that I want to assign it to. Now, if you read the message, basically it's transferring the file from JB Clear's folder to the new owner. If it's a large amount of data, it's going to take some time. Hit apply, and once that's done, if you hit refresh here, that folder is now owned by S. Weathers. If this changing ownership process is a temporary thing, maybe somebody's on medical leave or maternity leave, you would simply click on ownership for that same thing. It's under S. Weathers, then you would click on ownership and change it back to the original user. Click OK. It's basically letting you know it's transferring the files. Hit apply. And it should be changed. And we'll hit refresh here to refresh the page here. And if we look at Workspaces, now the original owner owns that workspace. This concludes the topic of changing ownership of a workspace folder. There will be links associated with this topic somewhere around this video. The next topic for administrating workspaces would be the audit and reports that are available. This requires the audit and reporting module. And if you click on the reports tab and look at the bottom, there's 4 reports that are available. Workspaces files picked up, files sent, folders shared, or folders unshared. In this case, the folders unshared report shows a user account by the name of M. Calder removed a folder called shared, and that was the date that it occurred. Running the folder shared report shows you everything having to do with the sharing experience. For example, this user account sent an invite out. The invitation was sent. These are the permissions that were defined during the invitation process. This was the user actually registering and joining. There's another invite that was sent. In this case, I gave them upload, read, and change directory capability. Invited and joined. So you have complete details of what's happening within the system. The file send report provides a send date, who sent the email, who received the email, the name of the file sizes, what the subject was, and when it expires. The files picked up report is very similar to the file sent report. It's the inverse, right? You'll have a receipt date, the recipient email, who sent the email, the name of the file, the size of the file, what's the workspace associated with the file, and then the expiration date. This concludes the auditing report section for this video. Our next topic will be event rule triggers and conditions that are related to workspaces. I'll start with the conditions associated with the file uploaded trigger. So you'll have if workspace physical path is one of the conditions, if workspace virtual path is another one, if workspace name, if workspace participant list, if workspace owner, and if workspace owner email address. There are additional triggers for event rules and pertaining to workspaces located here. When you select new event rule, you have these options down here. So these are workspace events. So when a workspace is created, expired, or before the workspace is deleted, when the workspace is deleted, workspace's invitation is sent, or when a workspace is joined by user, and when a workspace user is removed. We also have triggers that apply to the secure file send technology. Message composed. So once a message has been composed and the send button pressed, run this rule before processing any attached files or sending out links to recipients. Message sent. The description right here talks about it. Once a message has been composed, send button is pressed, and all validation and processing is done. Run this rule after attaching files and sending out links to recipients. If the message was composed, but the send button was pressed, but validation and processing failed and no link was sent to recipients, run this rule. Message viewed. Once a recipient follows a link to pick up a file or read their message and they've loaded the pickup page, then run this rule. Message attachment before download, right? Once a recipient clicks on the link to pick up a file, but before we begin the download, run this rule. And message attachment after download. Once a recipient clicks on the link and after they have downloaded their file, you can run this rule. So again, these triggers here are available to your administrators to help monitor and administrate your workspaces. Another way to enhance the workspace module would be to use the workspace variables associated with it. These variables would allow administrators to create custom automation processes, maybe, or custom logs for that matter, whatever they need to help fulfill their administrative role. And these variables are listed in our documentation, so I'm not going to really talk much about them, but just letting you know that they're available and that the link will be somewhere around this video. The next topic pertaining to administrating workspaces would be the default configuration options. This is actually a JSON file located inside the web directory from inside the EFT server. This gives you the ability to customize the default permissions when it's created. This would be located in this folder. Let me show you the folder. This file would be located under Program Files, Globalscape, EFT Server, the web interface, Shadowfax, and then WT for the web transfer client, and then assets. This file is called the admin configuration.json file. You can modify that file with a standard notepad editor. So on the top we'll have WTC default configuration parameters, but on the bottom, notice here it has the Workspace default permissions. So if I were to set this to false, and restart the service, right, because the service has to restart in order to read the file, then when I create a user and they go through the registration process, once they're validated and they log in, their default, this will be disabled by default. They won't be able to create a folder. So from an admin point of view, you'd have to go back and give them the permissions to do that in a deliberate fashion, so to speak. Just a quick reminder that you need to restart the EFT service in order for these configuration changes to take effect. This last topic wasn't listed earlier in the video, but I feel that it was important to discuss, and that's the workspace notifications. These are HTML and text files that can be modified through the admin interface. These files are located under localhost's SMTP tab, and if you look, there's all these email templates that are available to you. The workspace ones are located on the bottom, so this allows you to edit them and add variables if you need to, Globalscape workspace variables or associated variables. And those variables will be located in a link that I will post somewhere around this video. Well, this concludes the deep dive of administrating workspaces within Globalscape's EFT software. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. We'll see you soon. Thank you.